Hi, welcome. My name is Heather from yogabyheather.com. I am your yoga and yoga trapeze instructor. And today I'm going to walk you through a leg, core, and stability flow that you can use for a pre-workout or a post-workout recovery stretch coming down off your workout, that kind of thing. So this is going to be really good for your legs, for your stability, and your core as well. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're doing a safety check. You always want to make sure, first of all, that your doctor has cleared you to use the yoga trapeze. Second of all, we're going to make sure that we do a safety check on our yoga trapeze. So we're going to check to make sure that it is stable, that we've got it hooked up well. We're looking at the carabiners, making sure those are locked. Everything is secure and in place. We're going to take a look at the sling, making sure that it's unbunched, it's not tangled up. And then we're going to make sure that our handles are free and clear as well. Okay. So everything looks good. So let's get started with our legs, core, and stability flow. So first thing you're going to do, stand behind the sling. You're going to grab both handles here. You're going to bunch up the sling and place your right foot in the sling. So just above your ankle, your foot is out and the sling is bunched up in front of your ankle. And if you would like to, we're going to come into pigeon pose first. If you would like to, I've got a video tutorial on this on my YouTube channel as well, how to do a couple different variations of how to do pigeon pose on the yoga trapeze. But one thing you can do for a little bit extra support is bring the sling all the way up to your knee. So if your knee to your ankle is covered in the sling. All right, so I'm going to do it this way for a little bit of extra support. So you're going to grab on to both handles. We're going to hop forward just a little bit so I'm in the center here. And then I'm going to externally rotate my hip, making sure that I'm keeping the sling in place. Externally rotate my hip, come in to pigeon pose, hanging on to both sides of the sling, coming into that pigeon pose, and then just leaning forward into the pose, coming up on your back foot. And sometimes what might happen is if you've got your right foot in the sling, you might start to rotate over to the right. So we really want to work towards keeping things centered, keeping things aligned, and then coming forward into the stretch. So we're just going to hold it here, 5 to 8 breaths. And maybe you have a yoga buddy that joins you in your yoga classes. As you can see, Cole has decided to grace us with his presence today. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Nothing should be painful here. You shouldn't be wincing. If it's too intense, just bring your left foot back. Just bring it back. Just don't lean into the pose quite as much, okay? Then we'll come back to center. And next we're going to straighten out your leg. Put the sling behind your knee. If this is too intense for your knee, what you can do is you can stretch out the sling, stretch out the fabric a little bit here, making it just a little bit wider underneath your knee so it's not all just one pressure in one spot on your knee, okay? So we're going to start from center. We're right underneath the sling. Start from center, come into a forward lunge. So hanging on to the sling, leaning forward into the lunge. Coming up on your back foot. And while you're here, you can rotate, circle your ankle, your foot. And same thing here. If you start to feel like you're kind of coming over to the right, you've got your right foot in the sling, your right knee in the sling. If you feel like you're kind of rotating and coming over to the right, work to bring your body back to center, keeping everything aligned. And we're going to stay here for 5 to 8 breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Then we'll come back to center. We're going to bring the sling back to our ankle. So making sure it's bunched up. Bring it back to our ankle, both sides of the sling, and we're going to come into the standing splits. Now, I am not very flexible in my hamstrings at all, so you may be able to come way more than I can. But this is, where I am. And so we're just going to come forward into your standing splits. So some of you may be able to come all the way forward into these standing splits here, but this is a great stretch for your hamstrings. And I also feel it a bit in my hip flexors on the standing leg, on my left leg as well. So we're going to hold here for 5 to 8 breaths. You do not want to be wincing. If your breath is shallow, just come back out of the stretch just a little bit. You can adjust the intensity by basically how much you lean forward and how much you're on your toes of your back foot. And you can stretch, extend, and flex your foot. And then come back to center. Okay, then we're going to take our foot out of the sling and we're going to repeat on the other side. And Cole's here supervising. All right, so place your left ankle into the sling. You can spread the fabric out, bringing the fabric up to your knee. So fabric goes from your knee to your ankle. Externally rotate your hip. Come into the pigeon pose here. Hang on to both sides of the sling, lean forward into the stretch. Now this side, I really feel like I'm starting to rotate to the left. So what I'm doing is I'm really working towards bringing the knee, bringing the ankle back towards the center. It's just, we all have imbalances. We all have differences on each side of our bodies. And stay here for 5 deep breaths, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And same thing here, you can lessen the intensity, greaten the intensity by just how much you're coming up onto your back foot and leaning forward into the pose. If it's too intense, just come back. Not intense enough, lean forward. And then come back to center, straightening out your leg, placing the sling underneath your left knee. Again, if it's too intense here, you can extend the fabric up your leg, whatever feels best for you. Grabbing onto both sides of the sling and leaning forward into our lunge. And again, you may feel differences between both sides. We each have, our bodies are not symmetric. We hold tension in different places. Rotate your ankle, flex and extend. And breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. No wincing. We're not breathing shallow. If you're doing that, it's too intense. Lessen up on the intensity. And you might come forward and backward just a little bit. Whatever feels good for you. It's always whatever feels good for you. All right. And then we're going to come back to center, placing the sling back underneath our ankle, hanging on to both sides of the sling, leaning forward into our splits. And again, this side, I can feel myself really starting to rotate to the left. That's just me. We've got imbalances. You may feel something different here. It's real easy to get into this pose and get a little bit too far into the intensity. If you're feeling like you're breathing shallow, that's how you know it's a little too intense. It might feel good, but it's just a little too intense for you. So you're going to back up on it. Nothing should hurt. And then come back to center, taking your leg out of the sling. And then next, for our final pose in this series, what we're going to do is we're going to do a dancer pose. And there's a couple of different ways to get in and out of this pose. I'm going to show you a very, very, very simple way. And I have a couple variations as well if you've got some tight shoulders or if you're just tall like me and you have long arms. Okay, so there's a couple different variations here for this particular pose. So we're going to come to center, standing behind the sling, making sure the sling is bunched up here in the center. Place your right foot in the sling. And again, we're just having it at our ankle. Take your right hand, grab the left handle. So we're crossing over, grabbing the left handle, okay? And just coming and twisting around. And then when we get twisted around, grab the high handle on the other side, all right? So we're coming here to the start of our dancer pose. So this pose might feel good for you right here. This is a really great quad stretch. So you can hang on to this pose. You could even squat down to get into a more intense stretch here as well. All right, and then so we'll stand back up. And now we're going to come into our dancer pose. So what you'll do is you'll kind of kick your right foot back out behind you. We're still hanging on to the high handles here. You can see that my arms are long, okay? These high handles don't go out far enough for me. they may be enough for you. You may be shorter and you may need to hang on to the middle or the low handles. This is where it's really going to just depend on your body structure, where your shoulders are, how you're feeling. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab onto the middle handles here and come into my dancer pose. So I'm going to kick my right leg back, extending my shoulders out, looking up to the sky. And this is, we're getting balance, we're getting stability, we're getting core work here, we're getting leg work. This is an amazing full body pose for us. We're going to hold this for 5 to 8 breaths. And then come back to standing. Take your right hand and reach for the sling. We're going to come over to the side and you're going to extend your leg out in front of you, but you're going to be facing the side. So we're opening up our hips here, opening up our pelvis here. All right. So I'm facing to the side. Got my right foot in the sling right up to the ankle here. I'm going to reach my left arm up overhead and come into a nice side bend, side stretch here. I'm going to hold this for 5 to 8 breaths. And if you'd like, you can come in and out of that stretch if you'd rather not hold it. Either one works. I really feel this opening up my inner thigh and then also on my side over here on the left-hand side. You might feel it in different spots. Feels amazing to me. Okay, I'm going to come back to center. Take your foot out of the sling and we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So take your left foot, place it in the sling. Fabric is bunched up around your ankle. Take your left hand, reach over to the right handle, and we're just going to spin around, turn around to come to the other side of our sling. Grabbing the top handles here, we can hold this quad stretch. Feels amazing. You can bend your knee to come into a deeper quad stretch. You can even feel this in your shoulders as well. Again, here you're just going to figure out which handles work best for you based on where your shoulders are, your height, that sort of thing. Come back up to standing. I'm going to kick into the dancer pose, but I know that I need to use the middle handles. You can grab whatever handles are going to work best for you. So I'm going to grab these middle handles here. I can get it. This is where the balance really comes in. So I'm hanging on to my middle handles. You're hanging on to whatever handles work for you. Kicking your left leg back. Extending your arms out, looking up to the sky, coming into the dancer pose. We'll hold this for 5 to 8 breaths. And then we'll come back to center. Turning around to the side, hanging on to the sling. Placing the fabric at our ankle. We're at the side, looking towards the side. Raise your right arm up overhead and come into your side bend, side stretch. And you can either hold this for 5 to 8 breaths, or you can do breath to movement coming in and out of the stretch. Come back to center. Take your leg out of the sling and come back to your mat. So this has been a leg core stability, full body stretch for you for your post-workout, pre-workout, wherever you need to fit this into your workout. If you like this video, please make sure to like it, subscribe to my channel, send it to somebody who you think might find it helpful. Also, I do have a guide that's got all sorts of great active recovery poses for you for post-workout, your rest day, whatever might work best for you. These are all done on the mat. You don't need a yoga trapeze, but this is going to be really helpful for those of you that are trying to bring yoga more into your fitness routine. So make sure you check that out in the description below. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.